The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between stars. It was bigger than most cities and served as the home of the Galactic Council. Inside its main chamber, representatives from 47 different alien species sat in a perfect circle. Each species had their own special seat designed for their unique bodies. Kiwoo Park sat in the human section. He was Earth's ambassador to the galaxy, a job that had become harder each year. His dark hair was turning gray from stress and deep lines marked his face. Today felt different. Today felt final. The chamber buzzed with alien voices. Some species clicked their mandibles. Others hummed in frequencies humans could barely hear. The gas-based aliens changed colors to communicate, while the crystal beings chimed like bells. Kiwoo had learned to understand most of them over his 5 years here. At the center of the chamber stood Chancellor Vextar. He belonged to the hegemony, the most powerful species in the council. His insect-like body was covered in hard plates and his forearms moved as he spoke. When he talked, a machine translated his clicking sounds into words other species could understand. The council has reached a decision about the human problem, Chancellor Vextar announced. His voice came out cold and mechanical through the translator. Kiwoo felt his stomach tighten. He had known this day might come, but hearing it still hurt. After careful consideration, we have decided that humans are not suitable for membership in the Galactic Council, the Chancellor continued. Your species shows too much aggression. You refuse to follow proper order. You ask too many questions and try to change things without permission. Around the chamber, other alien representatives nodded or made sounds of agreement. The crystal beings chimed happily. The gas aliens pulsed with satisfied colors. Even the usually neutral Korth delegation stayed silent, which was almost worse than active agreement. Captain So-Young Kim watched from the observation deck above. She commanded the human escort ship Soul's Pride, which had brought the delegation to this meeting. Her hand rested on her weapon, even though she knew it would be useless here. If the aliens wanted humans dead, they could kill the entire delegation without effort. Kiwoo slowly stood up. The 12 humans in the delegation gathered their few belongings. They had always been the smallest group in the council chamber, but now they felt especially tiny. We understand the council's position, Kiwoo said clearly. His voice carried well in the chamber's perfect acoustics. Earth formally withdraws from all council treaties, trade agreements, and defense pacts. This withdrawal begins immediately. Chancellor Vextar's mandibles clicked, and what Kiwoo had learned was amusement. A wise choice, Ambassador Park. Perhaps in a few hundred years, when your species has grown up properly, you may ask to join us again. Some of the alien representatives made sounds that might have been laughter. Kiwoo felt heat rise in his cheeks, but he kept his face calm. As the humans filed out of the chamber, Captain Kim caught the eye of Dr. Hyun-Soo Lee. The doctor was Earth's expert on alien biology, and the only human ever allowed to see the Council's secret files. His face looked grim, but there was something else there. A spark of defiant calculation that made Kim feel slightly better. The journey back to their ship took 20 minutes through Nexus Prime's corridors. Aliens of all kinds moved past them, some staring with curious eyes, others ignoring them completely. A few made gestures that were probably insults in their cultures. The Soul's Pride was a small ship compared to the massive alien vessels docked nearby. It looked primitive next to their smooth, advanced designs, but it was human-built, and right now that felt important. Once aboard, the delegation remained quiet as Captain Kim piloted them away from the station. It was only after they had traveled beyond Council space that Ambassador Park finally spoke to his team. Minho, send a priority message to Earth Command, he said to the communications officer. Tell them the Council has made their choice. He paused, staring out at the stars through the view screen. And tell them it's time for Project Homecoming. Minho Jang looked confused. He was young, only 25, and this was his first deep space assignment. Sir, Project Homecoming is classified above my clearance level. I don't know what that means. Not anymore, Park replied quietly. After today, everything changes. Dr. Lee moved to stand beside the ambassador. Kiwoo, are you sure about this? Once we send that message, there's no going back. Park nodded slowly. They made their choice, Hyun-Soo. They think we're primitive. They think we're weak. They think we'll just crawl back to Earth and hide. His voice grew harder. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Captain Kim input the course for Earth into the navigation computer. The journey would take 3 weeks through hyperspace. 3 weeks to think about what had just happened and what would happen next. "Sir," Minho said from his communication station, "I'm getting requests from several news networks. They want to know what happened at the council meeting." "Tell them no comment for now," Park replied. "Earth Command will decide how much to reveal and when." As the Soul's Pride jumped into hyperspace, leaving the Galactic Council behind, none of the aliens at Nexus Prime realized what they had just done. They thought they had removed a minor annoyance. They thought they had solved a small problem. What they had actually done was wake up a sleeping giant. For over 70 years since first contact with alien life, humanity had been playing a careful game. They had sent diplomats and traders into space, always acting humble and grateful for any scraps of technology or knowledge the aliens shared. They had built small colonies on unwanted worlds and kept their military forces hidden. But every human who had ever left Earth had been watching, learning, and reporting back. Every piece of alien technology had been studied and reverse-engineered. Every weakness in council politics had been noted and filed away. The aliens saw what they expected to see: a young, primitive species trying desperately to fit in. They never saw the intelligence-gathering operation that had been running for decades. They never suspected that humanity had been preparing for this exact moment. Project Homecoming was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months had passed since Ambassador Park and his team left the Galactic Council. At first, the aliens barely noticed any changes. Human ships still moved along the space trade routes. Human colonies still sent their regular status reports. Everything seemed normal. Then slowly, things began to change. The first sign was the trade ships. Human cargo vessels that had been making regular runs between star systems simply stopped coming. Trade stations that relied on human goods found their deliveries canceled. Alien merchants who had contracts with human companies received polite messages saying all agreements were ending immediately. Admiral Tae-Jin Choi stood on the bridge of the battlecruiser New Busan, watching the last evacuation convoy approach the jump point. Behind them, the planet New Jeju glowed with city lights that would soon go dark forever. New Jeju had been humanity's most successful colony outside the solar system. Home to 3 million people. All civilian ships are accounted for. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Eugene Nam. She was his aide, a sharp young officer who had helped coordinate the massive evacuation. "The last transport cleared the orbital platforms 1 hour ago." "What about the platforms themselves?" Admiral Choi asked. "Rigged with explosives as ordered, sir. We're leaving nothing useful behind." The Admiral nodded. The orders from Earth had been very clear: total withdrawal. Every human ship, every colonial outpost, every research station was to return to the solar system immediately. No exceptions. What the Galactic Council didn't know was that this wasn't a retreat. This was preparation. The evacuation of New Jeju was happening all across human space. On New Sol, 2 million colonists packed their belongings and boarded transport ships. The mining colony on asteroid base Incheon shut down its operations and demolished its equipment. Even the tiny research outpost on the ice moon Europa 7 was abandoned. Human military ships escorted the civilian convoys, but they stayed hidden from alien patrols. The last thing Earth wanted was questions about why humans were leaving so quickly. Meanwhile, on Earth itself, something extraordinary was happening in the frozen wastelands of Antarctica. Director Ji-Hoon Kang stood in the main control room of the Antarctic Research Complex, a facility so secret that most of Earth's government didn't know it existed. Through the reinforced windows, he could see massive construction projects that had been hidden under the ice for decades. "Status report," he called to Dr. Yoon Ji-bae, the lead physicist on what the official records called the Deep Space Research Initiative. Dr. Bae looked exhausted. She and her team had been working 20-hour days since the withdrawal from the Council. "The quantum fold generators are operating at 97% efficiency, Director. We've successfully tested the technology on unmanned probes. The quantum fold allows for instant travel across the galaxy, completely bypassing the hyperspace lanes that aliens use." Director Kang smiled. The hyperspace lanes were how all galactic travel worked, or so the aliens believed. Ships had to follow specific routes through space, and those routes could be watched and controlled. But quantum folding was different. It allowed ships to appear anywhere instantly without warning. "What about the other projects?" he asked. Dr. Bae's expression grew more serious. "Project Prometheus is ahead of schedule. We've successfully reverse-engineered and improved every piece of Council technology we could get our hands on. Our new ships will be faster, more heavily armed, and better defended than anything the aliens have." She paused, then continued. "We've also made improvements they never thought of. Our weapons can punch through their shields. Our shields can absorb their strongest attacks. And our sensors can see things they can't detect." Director Kang nodded approvingly. "And Project Phoenix? The automated manufacturing stations are online. We can build a fleet larger than anything in galactic history. Instead of taking years, we can do it in months." This was the secret that the Galactic Council had never suspected. When humans had first made contact with alien life 70 years ago, they had immediately begun the greatest intelligence operation in history. Every human diplomat, trader, scientist, and tourist who had ever left Earth had been carefully trained to observe and remember everything they saw. Every piece of alien technology that humans encountered was secretly studied. Every alien military tactic was analyzed. Every political weakness in the Council was noted and filed away. The aliens thought humans were just eager students, grateful for any knowledge. They never realized they were teaching humanity how to defeat them. But humans had done more than just copy alien technology. They had improved it. Human engineers had taken alien designs and made them better. Human scientists had found flaws in alien theories and corrected them. Human military strategists had identified weaknesses in alien tactics and developed counters. The aliens had made a critical mistake about human nature. They saw human curiosity and innovation as dangerous unpredictability. They wanted humans to follow orders without question, to accept explanations like "because we say so." When humans kept asking why and how can we make this better, the aliens saw insubordination. What they failed to understand was that asking questions and improving things was what made humans human. In the Deep Space Monitoring Station hidden on the dark side of Earth's moon, Captain Wanho Shin watched the scanners that tracked alien ship movements. For months he had been observing increased Council military activity. The aliens were moving fleets around, clearly preparing for something. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving reports from our deep space scouts. Alien patrol activity has tripled in the border regions." Captain Shin wasn't surprised. The complete disappearance of human presence from space had made the aliens nervous. They were starting to ask questions about where all the humans had gone. "Any signs they've detected our stealth scouts?" he asked. "No, sir. Our ships are still invisible to their sensors." This was another human advantage. While the aliens had been content with their existing technology, humans had never stopped innovating. Human ships could now move through space without being detected by any alien sensor system. Human communications could not be intercepted by alien equipment. Humans could watch the aliens, but the aliens could not watch back. On the planet New Busan, the last human colony to be evacuated, Mayor Soo-Jin Lee supervised the final shutdown procedures. The colony had been home to 500,000 people, all now safely on their way back to Earth. "All power systems are offline," reported her chief engineer. "The fusion reactors have been set to overload in 72 hours. There won't be anything left for salvage." Mayor Lee nodded sadly. It hurt to abandon the worlds that humans had worked so hard to build. But the evacuation wasn't about giving up. It was about gathering strength for what came next. As the last transport ship lifted off from New Busan spaceport, carrying the final group of human evacuees, the alien species of the galaxy settled into their new normal. They reorganized trade routes to replace human commerce. They moved into abandoned human territories. They congratulated themselves on solving the human problem so easily. None of them suspected that in the solar system, humanity was building the largest and most advanced fleet in galactic history. None of them realized that human engineers had spent decades developing weapons and defenses far superior to anything the Council possessed. None of them knew that human strategists had been planning for this exact situation since the day first contact was made. The aliens thought they had gotten rid of a troublesome junior species. What they had actually done was give humanity the time and motivation they needed to build an unstoppable war machine. In just 18 months, the galaxy would learn the difference between human retreat and human preparation. 2 years had passed since the humans left the Galactic Council. Life in the galaxy had settled into a comfortable routine. Trade flowed smoothly along established routes. The Council made decisions without annoying questions from primitive species. Most aliens rarely thought about humans anymore. Counselor Threxnall of the Hegemony, was reviewing quarterly trade reports in his office on Nexus Prime when his aide rushed in with urgent news. "Sir, we're receiving strange reports from the Outer Rim territories," the aide said, his voice tight with worry. "What kind of reports?" Threxnall asked, not looking up from his datapad. "Unknown ships, sir. Vessels that appear without warning. Scan remote star systems, then vanish before our patrol ships can investigate. They don't match any configurations in our military databases." Threxnall's insect-like faceplates shifted into what his species considered a frown. "Pirates?" "We don't know, sir. The energy signatures are unlike anything we've seen before. Our technical analyst can't determine where they come from or what technology they're using." Similar reports were filtering in from across Council space. Explorer Captain Zilandra of the Velthari Collective had encountered one such vessel near the Kepler Nebula. Her crystalline exploration ship had detected massive energy readings, but when she arrived at the coordinates, she found nothing but empty space and strange particle traces her sensors couldn't identify. "Command, this is Explorer Zilandra," she had reported. "I'm reading exotic particle signatures unlike anything in our databases. The energy patterns suggest advanced technology, but there's no ship here. The Velthari were known for having the most sensitive detection equipment in the galaxy. If their sensors couldn't identify something, it was truly unknown." The Nethmore gas-being collective was becoming increasingly worried. Their deep space observation posts, scattered throughout the galaxy's empty regions, were reporting what they called ghost signatures. These were ships that appeared on sensors but couldn't be seen, moving at speeds that should have been impossible through areas of space that were supposed to be completely empty. "The signatures appear for moments, then disappear," reported Observation Post Commander Velnash. "Whatever these ships are, they're using technology we don't understand. They move through space in ways that violate our understanding of physics." But it was Captain Rexthor of the Korth military who made the most disturbing discovery. His patrol squadron had been investigating reports of unusual activity in the abandoned human colony system of New Jeju. What they found should have been impossible. "Command, this is Captain Rexthor. I'm sending you visual confirmation now, but you're not going to believe it. The images that reached Korth High Command showed something that made no sense. New Jeju, which had been abandoned and dark for 2 years, was blazing with lights again. Orbital stations hung in perfect geometric formations around the planet. Ship traffic moved in organized patterns that spoke of massive industrial activity. But these weren't the same humble human ships that the galaxy remembered. These vessels were larger, sleeker, and moved with a precision that suggested advanced computer control. Their hulls seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making them difficult to track visually. And their energy signatures were completely unlike anything in Council databases. "Sir," Rexthor's sensor operator reported, "I'm detecting quantum distortions around the entire star system. It's like the space itself is being manipulated somehow." "Impossible," came the response from Command. "Quantum manipulation technology is purely theoretical. No species has successfully developed it. Sir, new contacts. Multiple ships appearing out of I don't know what. It's not hyperspace, something else entirely." Captain Rexthor watched in growing alarm as more than 200 vessels materialized around his single patrol ship. They were beautiful in a deadly way, with smooth lines and surfaces that seemed to bend light around them. They made no sound, sent no communications, issued no warnings or demands for identification. One moment his ship was alone in the vast emptiness of space. The next moment it was completely surrounded. Rexthor had served in the Korth military for 30 years. He had seen combat, faced pirates, and dealt with hostile alien species, but he had never experienced anything like this. The ships around him moved with perfect coordination, as if they were all controlled by a single mind. Then, as suddenly as they had appeared, the ships vanished. Not into hyperspace, where his sensors would have detected the characteristic energy spike that all species used for faster-than-light travel. They simply stopped existing in that location. His communication console chimed with an incoming message. The transmission was crystal clear with perfect audio quality. When the voice spoke, it used flawless Korth language with proper grammar and pronunciation. "Captain Rexthor, you will return to your command immediately. You will report that this system remains abandoned and uninhabitable. Any future incursions into human-claimed space will be met with appropriate responses. This is your only warning. The message ended, leaving Rexthor staring at empty space where moments before an impossible fleet had surrounded his ship. His hands shook as he set course back to Korth space. The emergency meeting of Council military commanders was held 3 days later. Representatives from every major species gathered to discuss what was clearly becoming a significant problem. The reports are consistent across all sectors, announced General Kexathar of the Hegemony military. Unknown ships with advanced technology are conducting surveillance operations throughout Council space. They appear and disappear at will. Using technology we can't identify or counter. Could these be human ships? Asked Admiral Jill Moran of the Velthari fleet. General Kexathar made a dismissive clicking sound. Impossible. Humans have primitive technology. When they left Council space, their ships were barely capable of basic hyperspace travel. They couldn't have developed such advanced capabilities in only 2 years. But Admiral Zorthek of the Korth Navy wasn't so sure. Sir, with respect, we may have underestimated human capabilities. Captain Rexthor's report suggests these unknown ships knew exactly who he was and where he came from. The message was delivered in perfect Korth, as if whoever sent it had studied our language extensively. You're suggesting humans have been planning this? General Kexathar asked. I'm suggesting we may not know humans as well as we thought, Admiral Zorthek replied. The meeting continued for hours, but reached no useful conclusions. The Council's military leaders had no idea what they were dealing with. Their sensors couldn't track the unknown ships. Their databases had no information about the advanced technology being used. Their patrol fleets were powerless to stop the surveillance operations. Meanwhile, in a hidden base beyond the edge of known space, Admiral Hyun Woo Nam reviewed the intelligence reports from the reconnaissance missions. The base was built inside a massive asteroid, completely invisible to alien detection systems. How are our scouting operations proceeding? He asked his intelligence chief, Captain Min-Soo Park. Excellently, sir. We've mapped every major military installation in Council space. We know the locations of their fleets, the capabilities of their weapons, and the weaknesses in their defensive systems. Admiral Nam nodded approvingly. Any signs they've detected our true capabilities? No, sir. They still think we're the same primitive humans who left the Council 2 years ago. They have no idea what we've become. The truth was that humanity had undergone a transformation that the aliens could never have imagined. The withdrawal from Council space hadn't been a retreat. It had been the final phase of a decades-long preparation for war. Human technology had advanced far beyond anything the Council possessed. Human ships could appear anywhere instantly using quantum fold drives. Human weapons could penetrate any known shield system. Human defenses could absorb the strongest attacks the galaxy had ever seen. But perhaps most importantly, humans had learned to think differently about warfare. While the aliens fought using predictable tactics and followed established rules, humans had developed strategies that no alien military leader could anticipate. The surveillance missions were just the beginning. Soon, the aliens would learn that walking away from the Council hadn't made humans go away. It had given them time to become something far more dangerous than any species the galaxy had ever known. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike any meeting in the organization's 1,000-year history. Representatives from all 47 member species had gathered at Nexus Prime. Their usual political games forgotten in the face of a crisis none of them understood. Chancellor Vextar stood at the center of the Great Chamber, his insect-like form tense with barely controlled fear. Fellow representatives, we face a threat that challenges everything we know about galactic security. The reports had been flooding in for weeks. Ghost ships appearing throughout Council space, advanced technology that made no sense, surveillance operations that their best military forces couldn't stop or even properly detect. And now, most disturbing of all, proof that someone was actively challenging Council authority. The holographic projector in the center of the chamber activated, and a figure materialized that made every alien representative freeze in shock. It was a human, but not like any human they remembered from the old days. Admiral Jiwon Park wore a uniform none of them had ever seen. It was deep black with silver trim and insignia that seemed to shimmer with their own inner light. Her bearing was confident, almost regal, and her eyes held the cold calculation of someone who held all the advantages. Honorable representatives of the former Galactic Council, she began, her voice calm and professional. I am Admiral Park of the Terran Defense Fleet. I come before you today not as a humble petitioner, but as the representative of humanity's response to your decision 2 years ago. The chamber erupted in shocked exclamations and demands for explanation. How was a human speaking to them? How had they penetrated the Council's most secure facility? What was this Terran defense fleet she mentioned? Chancellor Vextar raised his forearms for silence. This is impossible, he clicked angrily. Humans have primitive technology. You lack the industrial capacity for any significant military force. Admiral Park smiled, and there was no warmth in it whatsoever. Your mistake, Chancellor, was assuming that what you saw of humanity was all there was to see. The holographic display shifted, showing a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red markers began appearing throughout Council space, hundreds of them scattered across every major system and trade route. For 73 years, since first contact, humanity has been preparing for this moment. Every human who set foot on your worlds, every trade mission, every diplomatic exchange, every cultural visit was gathering intelligence. We studied your technology, analyzed your military doctrine, mapped your political structures, and identified your weaknesses. Counselor Mingray Shin of the Velthari chimed in alarm, her crystalline form resonating with distress. You were spying on us, violating our trust. We were being prudent, Admiral Park corrected calmly. And recent events have proven our caution was completely justified. You see, we never intended to remain junior partners in your council. We intended to understand exactly what kind of galaxy we were dealing with. The star chart shifted again, showing massive fleet formations moving through previously empty sectors of space. The formations were enormous, dwarfing anything the council had ever assembled. While you celebrated our departure and divided up our former territories, we were building. The solar system has been transformed into the largest shipyard complex in galactic history. We've developed technology that surpasses your own by multiple generations, and we've been watching everything you do. Watching for what purpose? Demanded Chancellor Vextar, though his voice had lost much of its earlier confidence. Watching your wars, Admiral Park replied simply. Your territorial disputes, your trade conflicts, your systematic oppression of smaller species. The Zephyrians have been crying for help while you debate trade rights. The Mollusk Collective faces extinction while you argue about jurisdiction. 3 minor species have gone completely extinct in the past year, while the Council held committee meetings. She paused, letting the implications of her words sink in throughout the chamber. Humanity was never truly interested in joining your council. We were interested in replacing it. The chamber fell into complete stunned silence. Even the normally chattering Velthari went quiet. The gas-based Nethmore stopped their color-changing communications. Every alien representative stared at the human hologram in growing horror. Finally, Counselor Sujin Han of the Nethmore managed to pulse a faint response. You cannot be serious. 1 species against 47? The mathematical odds alone make such a confrontation impossible. Mathematics, Admiral Park said with that same cold smile. Favor the prepared. The display changed again, this time showing detailed technical specifications that made every alien military expert in the chamber pale with shock. The humans weren't just claiming to have superior technology. They were providing proof. Our quantum fold drives allow instantaneous travel to any point in the galaxy without using hyperspace lanes, Admiral Park explained. Our weapons can penetrate any shield system currently in use by Council forces. Our defensive systems can absorb and redirect energy attacks at levels that would destroy entire Council fleets. She gestured, and the display showed comparative analyses between human and alien technology. In every category, human capabilities exceeded Council technology by factors of 10 or more. But technology alone doesn't win wars. Admiral Park continued. What wins wars is superior strategy, better intelligence, and the will to do what's necessary for victory. In all 3 areas, humanity has significant advantages. General Kexthar of the Hegemony military stood up abruptly. Even if what you claim is true, which I doubt, you cannot possibly have the industrial capacity to build a fleet capable of challenging our combined forces. General Kexthar, Admiral Park said, and the fact that she knew his name and rank sent chills through the chamber. Let me show you exactly what human industrial capacity looks like. The holographic display shifted to show the solar system, but it was unlike anything the aliens remembered. Massive construction platforms orbited every planet and major asteroid. Enormous shipyards stretched across millions of kilometers of space. Automated factories worked around the clock, producing vessels at a rate that seemed impossible. We've been building for 2 years with technology you can't match and industrial automation you can't comprehend, Admiral Park explained. Our current fleet consists of over 12,000 ships of the line, with more being completed every day. The number hit the chamber like a physical blow. The combined council fleets numbered fewer than 3,000 ships total. This is still impossible, Chancellor Vexistar insisted, but his voice now carried more desperation than confidence. Even with superior technology, you cannot have trained crews for such a large fleet. We don't need large crews, Admiral Park replied. Our ships are controlled by artificial intelligence systems more advanced than anything you've developed. A single human can command an entire squadron with perfect coordination and response times you can't match. She gestured again, and the display showed human ships in action. They moved with inhuman precision, reacting instantly to threats and opportunities. Their coordination was perfect, as if the entire fleet shared a single mind. The age of alien dominance in this galaxy is ending, Admiral Park announced. Humanity offers you a choice. The council system has failed. It protects the powerful while the weak suffer. It stifles innovation and perpetuates injustice. We propose something better. And what exactly are you proposing? Asked Admiral Zorthek of the Korth Navy. A true confederation. Equal representation for all species regardless of size or military power. Mutual defense agreements that actually protect smaller species instead of just serving the interests of the strong. Freedom to develop and innovate without having to ask permission from bureaucrats who fear change. The chamber buzzed with alien discussions. Some species seemed intrigued by the proposal. Others appeared terrified. The most powerful species looked angry at the challenge to their authority. And if we refuse? Chancellor Vextor asked. Admiral Park's expression grew cold. Then you will be removed from power and replaced by those who actually care about justice and peace. The hologram flickered and stabilized. You have 72 hours to consider our proposal. After that time, humanity will begin implementing changes to the galactic order with or without your cooperation. The projection ended, leaving the council chamber in chaos. Alien representatives shouted demands and accusations. Military commanders called for immediate mobilization of all available forces. Politicians argued about response strategies, but in the back of every alien mind was the same terrifying question. Had they just been threatened by a species they had dismissed as primitive? And if so, were they actually capable of carrying out their threats? Within hours, the largest fleet in galactic history began assembling for what would either be the Council's greatest victory or their final defeat. The first battle began at Crystallis Prime, a Velthari mining world on the edge of Council space. A hegemony fleet under Admiral Kexanar had been sent to investigate reports of human ships in the system. What they found waiting for them changed everything. Admiral Wansik Kim commanded the human forces from the bridge of the dreadnought Righteous Fury. The massive vessel hung in space like a dark promise, its hull absorbing light and making it nearly invisible against the starfield. Around it, 50 other human ships waited in perfect formation. Hegemony vessels, came the transmission from Admiral Kim. You are in violation of the Terran exclusion zone. Withdraw immediately or be disabled. Admiral Kexanar of the Hegemony responded with the arrogance that had served his species for centuries. Human vessel, you are outnumbered 12-1. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Admiral Kim smiled grimly at his tactical officer. Deho, transmit firing solutions to the fleet. All weapons set to minimum power. We want their ships intact for questioning. What followed could barely be called a battle. The human ships moved with impossible coordination, as if controlled by a single mind. Their weapons punched through hegemony shields like they weren't there. Their own defensive system simply absorbed everything the aliens threw at them without showing any signs of strain. The hegemony ships tried every tactic in their military handbook. They attempted to overwhelm the humans with focused fire. They tried to outmaneuver them using superior numbers. They even attempted to ram the human vessels in desperation. Nothing worked. Within 10 minutes, 11 of the 12 hegemony ships were disabled and drifting powerlessly in space. The 12th ship had been allowed to escape, its crew left alive to carry word of what had happened back to Council space. Captain Yunsu Jung of the destroyer, Soul's Revenge, watched as human boarding parties systematically captured the disabled vessels. Admiral, all enemy ships secured. Casualties minimal on both sides. Excellent, Admiral Kim replied. Send the survivors back to their fleet with a message. This system is now under Terran protection. Any species currently being oppressed or exploited by the Council will find sanctuary here. The news of the engagement spread through Council space faster than hyperspace travel. A single human fleet had defeated a major hegemony task force without losing a single ship. More disturbing still, the humans had shown restraint. They could have destroyed the hegemony fleet entirely but chose not to. This wasn't the behavior of primitive barbarians. This was the calculated response of a superior military force that didn't need to prove its strength through unnecessary destruction. Within days, refugee ships from oppressed species began arriving in human-controlled space. The bird-like Zephyrians who had been seeking Council protection for decades came first. The mollusk collective, facing extinction from hegemony expansion, followed close behind. Even some smaller mammalian species that had never been allowed Council membership sought human protection. President Danby Co addressed the galaxy from Earth's capital. Her words broadcast on every available communication channel throughout known space. To the species of the galaxy, humanity offers an alternative to the Council's corrupt hierarchy. We propose a true confederation based on equality, mutual respect, and the fundamental right of all sentient beings to determine their own destiny. To the Council's member species, your choice is simple. Reform your system or watch it be replaced by something better. The Council's response was swift and predictable. In an emergency session lasting only minutes, they declared humanity a galactic threat and authorized the mobilization of their combined fleets for a decisive strike against the solar system. Never before in galactic history had such a massive fleet been assembled. Nearly 3,000 ships from 47 different species, representing the combined military might of known civilization, converged on the edge of the solar system. Admiral Hyan Wu Nam watched their approach from the command ship Indomitable Soul. The alien fleet was impressive, stretching across millions of kilometers of space in perfect battle formation. Their ships represented thousands of years of military tradition and technological development. They're beautiful, observed Captain Subin Kang from her position at the tactical station. It's almost a shame they're on the wrong side of history. Admiral Nam activated the fleet-wide communication channel. All ships, this is Admiral Nam. Today the galaxy learns what happens when you threaten humanity's home. All units weapons-free. Show them what we've learned from studying their tactics for 70 years. The Battle of Sol lasted exactly 6 hours and 47 minutes. When it was over, the Council's great fleet had ceased to exist as a fighting force. Not destroyed but captured. Every single ship, every crew member, taken intact by technology the aliens couldn't comprehend and tactics they couldn't counter. The human fleet had used quantum fold technology to appear instantly at any point in the battle. Their weapons had systematically disabled alien ships without destroying them. Their defensive systems had absorbed the combined firepower of 3,000 vessels without taking significant damage. But, perhaps most humbling for the aliens was the realization that the humans had been holding back. Long-range sensors detected reserve fleets 10 times larger than what had participated in the battle, waiting in the outer solar system in case they were needed. The formal surrender ceremony was held aboard the Indomitable Soul 1 week later. Former Chancellor Vextar, now a prisoner of war, signed the documents dissolving the Galactic Council and establishing the Free Species Confederation under human leadership. You were right about us, he admitted to Admiral Jinne. Oh, the human officer overseeing the ceremony. We completely underestimated your capabilities. No, Admiral O replied quietly, looking out at the stars where human ships now patrolled to ensure safe passage for all species. You underestimated the power of a species that refuses to accept "because I said so" as a satisfactory answer. She turned back to the defeated Chancellor. We didn't come back for revenge, Vextar. We came back to create something better. A galaxy where the strong protect the weak instead of exploiting them, where innovation is encouraged instead of feared, where every species has a voice in their own destiny. The transformation of galactic civilization began immediately. Human technology was shared with species that had been denied advancement by Council regulations. Trade routes were opened to previously excluded worlds. Military protection was extended to vulnerable populations that had been ignored by the old system. The Zephyrians, free from hegemony oppression, began developing their natural talents for energy manipulation. The mollusk collective, no longer facing extinction, shared their incredible biological knowledge with other species. Dozens of minor species that had lived in fear for centuries could finally pursue their own development without interference. Within a year, scientific advancement across the galaxy had accelerated beyond anything achieved in the previous millennium. Art, culture, and philosophy flourished as species were free to explore their own unique perspectives without conforming to council orthodoxy. But perhaps the most important change was in how conflicts were resolved. Instead of the strong simply imposing their will on the weak, the new confederation used human-developed mediation techniques that actually solved problems instead of just suppressing them. Admiral O stood on the observation deck of the new confederation headquarters, built in orbit around Earth. Through the transparent walls, she could see ships from hundreds of different species working together on projects that would have been impossible under the old council system. "Do you think we made the right choice?" asked Captain Minjun Lee, her aide. "Look out there," Admiral O replied, gesturing at the bustling activity around them. "For the first time in galactic history, every species is free to reach its full potential. The strong use their power to protect and nurture the weak. Innovation is celebrated instead of feared. That's what we fought for." She smiled as a group of young beings from a dozen different species worked together on a research project, their different biological capabilities combining to solve problems none could have tackled alone. The council saw human curiosity and independence as threats to be eliminated. She continued, "They never understood that these same qualities could be used to build something far better than what they had created." Across the galaxy, for the first time in recorded history, no species lived in fear of extinction at the hands of more powerful neighbors. Trade flowed freely without exploitation. Scientific knowledge was shared openly, and when conflicts arose, they were resolved through justice rather than force. Humanity had kept their promise. They hadn't returned for conquest or revenge. They had returned to build a galaxy where every species could thrive according to their own nature, protected by the strength of those who chose to use their power in service of justice rather than domination. The age of the Galactic Council was over. The age of the Free Species Confederation had begun,